Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome to Rocket Live. I'm your host, Chris Baglio, and today I am joined by my very special guest, Jimmy Young from Pro Cannabis Media. Jimmy, how are you, man?
I'm doing good. I'm so glad this year is ending.
I'm right there with you, buddy. I'm right there with you. You are actually the official last episode of 2020.
Well, with the last name of Young, I'm used to being in the back of the room and the last on the list. So I'm comfortable with that. That's okay.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. So before we get started, I just want to say thank you once again to everybody who is tuning in right now live and watching the live stream, and want to say a special thank you to everybody who's watching the replay of this on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube, and also for those of you that will be listening to the audio version of this on the Rocket Growth Agency podcast. Thank you guys all so much for all your support, all the subscribing, all the resharing, all the commenting, all the feedback. It's very appreciated, and thank you guys so much. So I'm really excited to have Jimmy on the show today, because Jimmy actually, what was it, like 3-4 months ago? I think it was back in September. I don't know. I was on your show.
Dog years. This whole year's been a dog year, right?
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah, for sure. It's like, I can't even believe it's been like 5 months since I even like launched Rocket Growth Agency and everything. It's just all feels like a blur. Every day kind of, I mean, the days go by, but it's just they still feel that blend one into the next. Every day still feels weird. I still feel like I'm living in a Twilight Zone episode.
It's like Groundhog Day, right? All over again. Every day is another. It's like, wait, I was just here. Oh, same thing. But hey, this makes my day. To be on your last show, 2020, makes my day. So I so appreciate you thinking of me.
No, and I'm so happy that you could come on and find the time. I know you're busy with your own show. I had the great fortune of being on Jimmy's show, In the Weeds, a few months back. We had a great time, awesome discussions, and I'm so happy that I'm able to reciprocate and now have you as my guest on the Rocket Live show. So thanks so much again for coming on.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So for everybody else that's watching, feel free to dive in and chat with us, throw questions in the comments as we go along. And if not, you just want to sit back and listen and have a good time with us, then that's great too. So welcome everybody who's watching on the live stream. So I would love to have Jimmy talk a little bit about his very storied career. And I know we don't have hours upon hours to talk about all the accomplishments that you've done in the world of broadcasting, because your accomplishments reads like a Hall of Famer. I mean, you've been in the game for a while, man. And but I think it's worth you talking a little bit about that before we move into where things are now for you, and talk about Pro Cannabis Media, which we're definitely going to get to. But you've had quite the career in New England broadcasting and sports and news. So yeah, talk a bit about that, man.
All right, happy to do that. One of my favorite subjects, myself.
Yeah, exactly.
But seriously, first of all, I appreciate it. Look, I've had a great life. It isn't just a career. I've had a great life. I've been blessed. There's no doubt. The fact that I'm talking to you from my office that's about 2 miles from the house that I grew up in, just outside of Boston, and it was my parents who gave me Newton, Massachusetts, which is a very nice suburb outside of Boston, after being born in Newark, New Jersey. So whenever I have to put that place of birth in, it's Newark, New Jersey, okay? That's where my folks lived, in West Orange, New Jersey, at the very beginning of my life. And in my 4th birthday, they moved up to Newton in a beautiful, beautiful colonial that I think they paid something like $35,000 for it in 1916. It's worth $2.5 million now.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But it was, like I said, just a great life. As far as the career, I thought I'd be a teacher and a coach. It's really my soul. I was a soccer coach for many, many years at every level: state, club, high school, varsity, and of course, local town. I had told my son that I would coach him for as long as he played. So he played from age 5 to age 19. So 14 of those 35 years, I was the local town coach of his teams, and we did okay. It was a lot of fun. But I really went to Tufts University hoping to be a teacher and coach. They were the most influential people in my life at the time. I had worked at a summer camp. It was owned by one of my parents' best friends. And I figured, you know what? Teacher, coach, camp. This would be good. I would like this life. And then I ripped up my ankle my junior year playing soccer at Tufts and had all this time in my hand. Didn't know what to do. A friend of mine was one of the founders of Tufts Television, decided he wanted an interview with somebody from the team to give a little preview of the year. And I said, well, the year's not going to be any good now because I'm hurt. So I have no idea what I'm going to do. And he said, well, why don't you produce sports at Channel 4 in Boston? And I went, what do you mean produce sports at Channel 4 in Boston? I don't know anything about TV production. He goes, no, you know sports. I go, yeah, I watch sports all the time. I love sports. He goes, well, you'd be working with this guy, Jimmy Myers. And I said, Jimmy Myers? I love Jimmy Myers. He's the weekend guy that does Calling All Sports. He says, and then he said to me, you get college credit for watching sports on TV.
Okay.
And I said, sign me up right now. Okay, I'm in. Okay, let's give it a shot. Next thing I know, 12 to 12, Saturday, Sunday, 12 noon, 12 midnight, Saturday, Sunday, pretty much from October 77 to June 78. Every weekend working with Jimmy. I learned how to be a sports producer. Wow. I edited I worked with editors. It was a union shop. I worked with editors on how to put all those highlight tapes together and highlight reels. And I really got a feel for daily and hourly deadline pressure. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to come back to that when we get up to the present day.
It's a whole different world, you know?
Well, totally different world. And you know what? But it teaches you so many lessons that you can apply to other parts of your of the world and even in your life. So needless to say, I'm very comfortable working under deadline pressure. That being said, I answered a one ad, took a sales job on radio, found some sponsors. I said, look, I want to be a sports talk show host. Bang, they sponsored my sports talk show. I started in 1979. Have you ever heard of a guy, he's older than me, Randy Vataha? He played with Jim Plunkett in Stanford in 1980. And Randy Vataha was my first guest in studio.
Wow.
And to this day, he still takes my calls. He's done very well. I believe his son's involved with the business that he's in Florida now. But they broker the sale of professional sports teams and take a cut of that. How they doing, right? Okay. Yeah, Randy made a good move getting out of football and getting into that. Yeah. So I started just doing a local sports talk show on a radio station. And then finally that station, which was in Lynn, Massachusetts, burnt down. Everything in Lynn, Massachusetts, they have this, it's kind of like New Jersey towns. It's Lynn, city of sin, never go out the same way you come in. Well, I went in employed and I went out unemployed. And that was about a year and a half later. And then I put a videotape together and I applied for my first TV job in Portland, Maine at the CBS affiliate. And I got it, which forget about it. Forget about it.
Forget about it.
There's no way. I was so lucky to get that opportunity. But Chris, kind of story of my life. I relocated for a job that paid me. I did 3 shows on the weekend if I was lucky. Each show carried a talent fee of $27.50.
Wow.
So I relocated for under $90 a week.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a whopping amount there.
It was, and well, you know what though, whenever you get that shot to be on camera, you take it, right?
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, when you get an opportunity like that, you just you have to take it.
Right, and I spent 11 years there. 6 months into that gig, I got a full-time offer as a reporter during the weekday and weekend anchor and fill-in weekday anchor. And I stayed there 11 years. I had a great mentor named Frank Fixeris, who has since passed away. But he was, how can I describe Frank to a New Jersey audience? Marv Albert.
Okay.
Okay. He was a veteran broadcaster. He was, from the 60s to 70s. He's one of those guys, Chris, you've heard about him. They used to smoke the cigarettes to get the resonance in their voice.
Right. You got to get that deep.
You got to talk from your diaphragm, right? And he was just a great guy. I learned so much about sportscasting, life. Got to realize I was 23 years old.
Yeah. I mean,
it's a long 40 years ago for those of you keeping score at home. Okay. I know. I look damn
good. And listen, and that's something too. Like if to get that kind of a shot, at 23, that's another reason why, you know what, you got to take that. I mean, to be 23 years old and have that opportunity, like that's a layup, no brainer. You know, you have to do it.
It's like deciding to be a sports producer, getting sports for college credit. It was, like I said, I've been blessed in my life. I'm not kidding you. So all that being said, I worked there for 11 years. My boss, Frank, was afraid to fly, didn't like to fly.
Okay.
So needless to say, I covered 2 Super Bowls, a College World Series, NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs. From Portland, Maine, it's an hour and a half north of Boston. I'm still covering the teams I grew up with. This was a big gig, right? And my career goal was to get back to Boston and prove I could be a sportscaster in my home market. 1992, a 24-hour regional CNN called New England Cable News started, and I got a full-time job, and I got my own show that I had for 6 years in Boston. They started me at an hour-long show, and the first 2 weeks, we filled that first half hour with highlights. So my boss calls me in the next Monday, and he goes, we're giving you another half hour. I go, what do you mean? He goes, well, you're going to do 90 minutes now. And I went, 90 minutes? Holy mackerel. I said, what am I going to do? And he goes, you'll figure it out. So we did highlights for 30 minutes, and then we did talk for an hour. And have guests come on, and we had phone calls. Okay, this was non-delayed phone calls. Non-delayed phone calls. Okay?
Non-delayed. So anything can happen, right?
You have the mature check on your recording, right? This is for mature audiences, is that right?
This is for mature audiences.
Okay, so I can tell you that at one Saturday night at about a minute of 12, wrapping it up, I just got a 30-second cue to wrap it up from my producer, and I'm talking to this guy about who was the best pure point guard that Celtics had in the 90s. Was it John Bagley, D. Brown, or Sherm Douglas, who was a Syracuse guy?
Right.
And we went back and forth. It was actually it was a good back and forth.
Right,
At the very end of the thing, right after the end of the queue, I goes, Jimmy, go fuck yourself.
Right on the air.
Right. And I said, all right, I'm going to ponder the biological challenges of that as we take it that'll be it for the night. We'll see you tomorrow night. And that was pretty much how I ended the show. So
just act like it didn't happen.
It was a lot of fun. I met wonderful people. I did the first sports report ever at a television channel that still exists. In fact, they sold for quite a bit of money that I was not part of to NBC Universal. And now the NBC affiliate and NECN, New England Cable News, are all under one roof. NBC Sports Boston is under one roof. And they're all about 3 miles that way. So, I mean, I'm still in the hood where I grew up, and I've been very, very fortunate. I created a sports talk show for kids back in the mid-90s that basically I trained young kids to be on-camera talent, taught them how to be anchors, ask questions, do voiceovers, and only kids could call the show, and we'd have athletes in the studio, and the kids could talk to the athletes. And it was fun. And I hate to bring it, but yeah.
There it goes. Boom. There it is. Hey, show it off, man. Show it off. Right? It's not like everybody can just have one. So
yeah, it just happens. It was right there. You know what I mean? It just so happens.
My Emmy is like right here.
Right. So I was very fortunate with that. Loved teaching kids anyway. And it actually led to my first entrepreneurial venture, which was Young Broadcasters of America, where I built the training studio for about $25,000 and ran it for 3 or 4 years and had a couple of hundred kids through there. Some of them have gotten on. They've gotten full scholarships to colleges. They've picked up one of my proteges, one of the kids, his first job after graduating in Ithaca, Honolulu, Hawaii.
Wow.
I mean, I told TJ, I said, TJ, I started in Portland, Maine. Not the day I'm in Portland, Maine. Honolulu, Hawaii. I said, so I'm very proud of all of them. I've got another woman who worked with me who now works for the Chicago Bears and hosts the Fox show in Chicago, her hometown. Needless to say, Lauren Screeden's doing great. So I'm very, very proud of the impact that I've had on a lot of kids during my career. Won the Emmy. And that kind of takes you up to this venture. Now, you might remember in 2008, the entire world's economy got cut in half, right? Remember that weekend?
Yeah, I vaguely remember.
For those of us who had anything to be cut in half, it was a big deal.
Yeah, that was tough times, man. That was some tough times.
So what a great time to open your first business, don't you think?
Oh, yeah.
My dad said, hey, you never do anything easy, do you? And I go, no. I said, that's what makes it such a fun story. So that lasted about 5 years till I ran out of money, and it is what it is. So let's fast forward now to starting Pro Cannabis Media, right? And that was in April of 2018. We incorporated May of 2019. But needless to say, getting into the cannabis industry in the first year or two of legalization in Massachusetts was a bit of a challenge too, and it's still a challenge to this day for many, many reasons. But I cannot believe now that I can talk about cannabis in an educational way. And I've met some of the most fascinating, interesting, intelligent people that, I mean, keep in mind, I interviewed sports guys and sports owners all that time. Now I'm talking to scientists and PhDs and botanists. I mean, there's a reason why this plant is fake, okay? Because I would kill it otherwise, okay? So
it's a good thing you have botanists as guests. They'll give you some.
That's right. So it's been an amazing run here. We really are still scratching the surface for where we think we're going to go.
Right.
We're a group of like-minded content producers. Something you and I will be talking about afterwards, offline, if you will. Yes, but I'm looking for news, information, and educational content. And I believe we have strength in numbers. A network is a group of stations or a group of like-minded people or that sort of thing, and creating a referral network. And whether you have 10,000 viewers and I have 10,000 viewers, selling 20,000 is a lot better than just selling 10. So I'm really big on finding quality content, great people, and then combining it all. And my eye is on a Roku, Amazon, and Apple TV channel, an OTT channel, as soon as possible, because even right now, this is really weird. We're live on the internet, right?
Yeah, we're live.
I'm live right now on Facebook and YouTube on my own pages.
Yeah, I would say on your own channel.
So it's a double hitter right now. I'm in two places at once.
It's like a paradox, man. There's gonna be a shift in the time-space continuum.
I don't think there will be. But anyway, point is, we have 12 hours a day. We've been showing the best of Pro Cannabis Media and our partners. And we've been live streaming from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. We're going to be doing it again. Tomorrow is Wednesday.
Yes, tomorrow is Wednesday.
Thursday. So both those days, 12 hours of live streaming. If you want to check it out, it's YouTube or Facebook. It's Pro Cannabis Media. Right. Really easy to find. And then the following week, we'll start getting back into doing original content. We do a weekly news video program with reports from Green Market Reports, Debra Borchardt, from Phil Adams out of the Vote Pro podcast, Washington, D.C. area. We go up north of the border to Canada, to Solomon, Israel, from MJ Biz Daily International to get the Canada report. And then we've got the main man, Ry Russell, who's now a co-host, who is a sidekick, if you will, and he does the main report. And I'm hoping to build that out into 16, maybe 14 to 16 individual reports from different places all over the country. So if anybody's out there who thinks they're a producer or wants to get into multimedia journalism, we're looking for talent. We really are. And I'm easy to find. Jimmy at Pro Cannabis Media. I mean, no one else is going to get that email. So you might as well, call me, send me your demo reel, give me ideas. And I'm trying to replace myself on all of my shows, except for In the Weeds, which was my original podcast and interview show. And somebody asked me about retirement, and I go, I'm going to stop talking to people. No, I'm going to keep talking to people, and eventually, it should work out. So that's that was my life in about 15 minutes. So
that was good. And it set the stage. So I'd like to. So let's take a step back now. So let's talk about Pro Cannabis Media, because we talked a little bit about the content you shared out with us and the people that you're involved with and where like your vision is for this. But ultimately, why start Pro Cannabis Media? What make the change from leaving professional broadcasting
Well,
and having that career, and then now obviously creating your own thing, which is great. But why cannabis?
Well, why cannabis is it's legal now, and in New Jersey. Congratulations! I'm sure you voted. Woohoo!
I most certainly voted.
So now I'm the place of birth and now my native state are both pro cannabis, and you can throw in Maine because I worked in Maine for 11 years and got to know a lot of people that are now in that business up there. So, but why Pro Cannabis Media? So it was March of 2018.
Mm-hmm.
I was asked to go to the New England Cannabis Convention and do a podcast on cannabis, and I was like, where's my cassette recorder? How the hell am I going to do a podcast, right?
Yeah.
Right? Because the old days we had cassette recorder.
Yeah, cassette recorder with the
right,
little
microphone. And I got the adapter for the iPhone, figured it out after a few weeks, and created a couple of podcasts. When I walked into that convention and my eyes opened up to all the ancillary businesses and industries that were trying to get into cannabis, I was blown away. I had no idea. Look, I've got plenty of years of experience with the plant. Okay, I'm not going to deny it. I took 10 years off when my son was born, but for the most part, 39 out of 63 years, I've been a regular user. I'll admit it. Okay, right. And especially now that my parents are no longer here, I'm not quite sure I'd be this open about it. Let's just say if they were around, but they aren't.
Yeah, but hey, it is what it is.
Right. So I watched an interview when I had started my podcast with I think it was a CNBC or MSNBC interview, and they had a CEO of an MSO, a multi-state operator, on. Mm-hmm. And this reporter was so bad. I can't even remember if it was a he or a she. Okay, so let's just say reporter, generic reporter.
Right. Generic reporter.
Asked horrible questions, all the myth questions. Isn't it a gateway drug? I hear you can get addicted on this. And what about all that sex that you have?
Boilerplate template of like crappy questions.
Right. How about doing a little research on the business of cannabis and how it's going to grow? Because it was part of the political scene. It was 2018, 2019. It wasn't like it was 1923 or 37 when it was prohibited, or 55 or whatever it was. So I was pissed at my comrades, okay? Because whether people liked me as a sportscaster or not, I was always a student of the game. I really appreciate the play-by-play of people like Al Michaels. Joe Buck gets a lot of crap from a lot of people, don't like him. The guy is so versatile and so polished. You know what? Give him a break. Read his book, and you'll change your opinion about Joe Buck.
I've actually heard that many times. I personally am one of those guys that screams at Joe Buck when I see him. Especially when he does Giants games.
Right. Well, I understand that. And by the way, it's tough when you're a public figure. You're never going to please all the people all the time. I think Bob Dylan.
You can't. I mean, it's and that's also entertainment, things like that. It's like it's impossible. It's impossible.
But we're not. First of all, when I was a reporter journalist, I was giving the facts and telling the stories. When I moved over to be a talk show host, I give you my opinions based on those facts. But I'm not gonna. I can look at both sides of a story, but I'm a talk show host. My job is to be provocative, to light up the phones, to get as many people dislike you, as long as they tune into you, right?
That's right.
So that's a talk show host, and that's the role I'm playing now, because I like that. Plus, I'm the boss, so I get to pretty much hire myself and put myself out there. But I'm also
there.
Yeah. You can do a lot, and you can get tired really fast when you're my age. So I got really upset at my comrades who were not giving the industry a fair shake.
Right.
And I have always been a champion of injustice in my life. Muhammad Ali was on my wall. Tom Seaver was on my wall too, just for the record. Okay. Even though I'm a Boston fan, I love the amazing Mets. Okay?
I mean, come on. Who doesn't like Tom Seaver?
That's right. That's right. May he rest in peace. Tough year for celebrities. Did you see 8 baseball Hall of Famers died this year? Gibson, Lou Brock, Al Kaline, Tom Seaver. I mean, holy mackerel.
And then musicians, it's just
it's been a crappy year. Anyway.
Yeah, it has been a real
So I got pissed off. So I said, you know what? I'm going to give the industry an opportunity to work with someone who has some professional background and can actually conduct an interview from the standpoint of you want to educate your audience. Mm-hmm. There's so many people out there that have no clue, that are looking to understand. The market that exists now in cannabis is that younger, I don't want to call them stoner crowd because I just don't like that word, but they're younger people. And when I was a younger person, I can probably create what they do. What's the best strain? How to get as high as possible? Can you dab safely? All of those things they're interested in. But it's the emerging market, my age group, all right, 50 plus, let's make it, right, that can actually start understanding that, whoa, this plant that I thought was vilified and was a drug, for years, it can actually enhance my sleep. It can help with my anxiety. It can help with my arthritic fingers. Wait, I got my camera. There it is. Yeah, gross. So find out about it. Explore. Experiment. Self-medicate. What the hell, right? It's a pretty benign product when you get down to it. Granted, any product can be abused if you overdo it. And as humans, aren't we always trying to test the limits? We
are, man. I think it's just inherent in our nature. That's it. As human beings, we want to push it and test it and even take it over the line until we either stop and go, oh, that's too much, or you just keep going until you
fade into the woodwork. We've all been there. Okay. Yeah. Let's just say the spinnies have happened on too many edibles. Everybody has an edible story. I do too. So it's like, what am I doing? Right.
Yeah.
So that's why I started this. Right. And, having the opportunity to meet some of the biggest names in the business. I give credit to Kurt Dalton, who's the founder of Cannabis.net, who's co-hosted a lot of the programs we did over the last 6 months to a year. And, he introduced me to Bruce Linton. We both got to meet and talk with Steve DeAngelo and interview him. We went to Jamaica, the Jamaican conference together, which is great. Met Captain Hooter there. And if you don't know who Captain Hooter is, don't go to Amsterdam without reading Captain Hooter's book, because he's reviewed every coffee house in Amsterdam. Okay. And by the way, CaptainHooter.com. I just interviewed him a couple of weeks ago. He's now in Jamaica. Why not? I wish I was in Jamaica.
Me too. I'd rather be there than be in New Jersey right now. I'll tell you that.
Right. That's right.
That's awesome. No, I mean, this is great because I watch a lot of what you do, and and it is great. I mean, you have a lot of really awesome guests on, and people that are very well educated. They are experts in what they do. Some of them are medical doctors, accredited scientists, and like you were saying, botanists and horticulturists. And I mean, it is amazing. And it's not just the quote unquote like stoner crowd, which and that's what I like about it. Last week I had Kerry Accardi on, and we talked a bit about that, because it is that, because it's she's on a mission, and she's her programming is all centered around health, wellness, mental wellness, all the benefits that the plant gives from the medicinal side of things, and the real education side. And that's what I like about what you do as well, because it is a great resource for people who want to learn more about what the plant does. And you were talking about your age range, and I think that that's really key, because you get a lot of people who want to do it. They're a little nervous. They're a little and obviously, it depends where you live, what state you live in. I mean, fortunately, it's getting more legal, but it's still not easy. Like New Jersey's not easy to go buy, cannabis. It's not like, you still have to get the card, and you got to do all these things, and you got to spend all this money, and then you got to constantly renew it. And then, there's only like 6 or 7 dispensaries here. And it's a very arduous process right now. Fortunately, Massachusetts seems to be a little bit easier.
Well, hang on a second. It took them 2 years from the vote to open their first dispensary. So you New Jersey types who are used to getting it done yesterday, you know what I mean? Get it done already. What the hell's the matter with you?
Hey, I'm right there. I'm right there.
The area, not known for its patience, let's just say.
No, well, you know what? I mean, listen, the vote was great because it at least cleared the way. But there's so much work. I mean, because they have to build now the guts of this thing. It's like it
All
removed the
regulations,
roadblocks, but
rules, regulations, and what's in it for me? Don't forget, that's the credo of the politician. What's in it for me, right?
What do I get? What do I get? You know, every town, everything. So I mean, that's the way it is. I mean, you're not gonna that's not gonna change. So, but the process is just slow. But from what you offer as far as your channel goes, what I really like is the education and knowledge and the caliber of people that you have on there is really good. And I
have a great production coordinator named Isabel that I don't want to give her last name, but she does a great job of digging up, finding, and booking and coordinating, because I'm out straight. My brain, they call me a mad scientist. A lot of people describe me that way. And I'm ADHD. What a shock, right? And I'm not a great business guy, so I try to surround myself with good people who can believe in my passion and want to go along for the ride. And same thing happened when I had Young Broadcasters of America. I had a great staff then too. So now I just got to figure out how to make money, and we'll be fine.
Well, there you go. I mean, but you're a sales guy too. So I mean, you've
We're
been a
storyteller. I am not a sales guy. I am a storyteller.
That's right. Big difference.
Right.
A big difference. And I agree with you 100%. There's a huge difference between being a sales guy and being a storyteller.
Right.
Very, very, very clear distinction. So thank you for correcting me on that.
No worries.
So let's talk about too. So so you have the Pro Cannabis Media, conglomerate, but then your show in particular, which is the one I was on,
In the Weeds.
was In the Weeds.
Yep.
So talk a little bit about In the Weeds and sort of what your vision is of In the Weeds.
Just to keep it going as long as I can do interviews and talk. Because I mean, my focus isn't so much on my podcast anymore. Mm-hmm. It's really about the other podcasts that we can find to join our club, if you will, for distribution purposes. And so while I love doing the one-on-one interviews, and I've met some incredible people, we've been doing live streaming on Twitch and being live from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. 3 days a week. We've been doing our weekly news video. I like putting that together, but I'm looking for I'm looking to replace myself. Let's leave it at that. I'm looking to replace myself with someone from the other gender. I think that's okay. I might get in trouble for that, but I want a male and a female. And I know that I'm still male and my co-anchor is male. So that leaves the other gender missing. And we definitely are looking for a female talent that knows how to write news, understands the cannabis scene, is passionate about it, and can spare a couple hours on a Thursday evening when we put it together. And by the way, we do it on Zoom now because it's the only safe way to have social distancing and still create content.
Yeah.
Granted, StreamYard too. I want to give you time here. Okay.
Yeah, I use StreamYard, and the reason why I use StreamYard is just because I have the ability to simulcast out to these multiple platforms at once. And I know there's other ones too, like Restream, things like that.
Exactly. That's what we do. Is we use Restream, and we are looking for other places to stream it. We were on the Investor News Channel live. Like I said, though, my hope, especially now that I have 96 hours of content already in the file, if you will, in files, that we want to make it on-demand content on a Roku channel so that you have that reach of 200 million, just because I still believe that we know how to create good content, and now we just want it to be seen by as many people as possible.
Yeah, and I think that's a wonderful mission, and I also find it interesting too, and because I talk a lot about, I mean, my main thing, what I do day in and day out is I'm coaching and training people on personal brand and building their personal brands, and even teaching them how to create their own content and really support their personal brand by doing that, how to ideate, how to create, and then actually physically do it. And I find it very interesting because a lot of the people I talk to tend to be in my age and younger, who are really not everybody just knows how to pick up a phone and start creating content. But I find it very interesting that, and you referred, to your age before, but I find it really great that it's for anybody that is making the excuse of oh, I can't get into this. Oh, I'm too old or something like that. I find it awesome that you have you're creating content, you've got a channel, and you're using all the platforms. I mean, you're on Twitch, which is like, you're live on Twitch, you're on YouTube, you're on Facebook, you're got the audio podcast, which is everywhere.
Yep.
You're
by the way,
leveraging
Chris,
the tools.
I'm going to interrupt you real quick about live streaming.
Yeah.
So when Young Broadcasters of America existed in 2008, 9, 10, 11, and 12,
Right.
we live streamed over 1,500 hours of live programming, all produced by kids under the age of 18. And we did an 8-hour live stream all over the world for bands, local bands. We had like 3 bands in the studio every hour. So we're constantly turning it over and the kids are doing the interviews. I mean, it was wild because we were live streaming onto my own website before people even understood. You can do that? I didn't know you could do that. I said, we do it every single week. So it's kind of fun. And now it's like, oh, well, live streaming. Everybody's live streaming.
Well, yeah, anybody can do it. It's really not hard at all for anybody to use the software. I mean, even if you're just using Zoom, it's actually built right in. You could live stream on YouTube and Facebook without using like StreamYard or Restream or anything like that. Like you could just on the basic just do that.
Yep.
But I find it very I find it very interesting what you do and how you do it, and the fact that basically you're like, there's no roadblocks. Like I'm just doing it. And I think that that's very inspirational. And I think that's what others should really take away from listening to this. Not only, the cannabis side, but I also feel like that, you have basically created like your own universe and you've adopted all these different technologies rather than, being scared or, hesitant about using them.
Right. And, you're the brand guy. So you're going to relate to this. Everybody can have their own channel. Everybody could be their own brand, right?
Sure.
And you don't have to wait for the networks to discover you, right? You can actually just start creating content and pushing it out. And learning how to control your message is what we do strategically from a marketing perspective. We're controlling our own message by sharing so much content with as many people as possible. And by the way, we don't just do audio video interviews. We take the audio file and turn that into a podcast.
Right.
And we're also investigating and starting to do a little bit more text transcription for search purposes. And so for one interview, you can get multiple pieces of content, long form, short form, right? I mean, it can be whatever you want. So
yeah, it's amazing what you can do and the flexibility once you have it and once you create it. And so there really are, I just made a post about this today, and it's just, I mean, honestly, the barriers that are there are really by our own creation. They really are. I mean, there's really, when you look at it, there's really nothing stopping anybody other than like ourselves, which is, usually our biggest enemy. So, if you can overcome that obstacle, that's it. Like you're off flying, you can just do it. And, don't be scared because everybody's done it. Everybody stumbles. Everybody still makes mistakes. And it's just, you just laugh it off and you just get better and you do it again.
And Chris, it's easy for us that have our own outlets here to say those things. But when I'm teaching people on camera performance, whether it's reading off a teleprompter, hosting a show, whatever, I make them watch themselves. And that is by far the toughest thing for anyone to do. Because we are our own toughest critics, right? Yep. So we have an image in our brain, not only what we look like, sound like, and have to deal with the fact that, wow, that's what I sound like. That's what I look like. But also, we have an image when we're on camera that we have to be, network. We have to be in the network, Chris, right? Talk from our diaphragm, project our voice, right? Look good, right?
Yep.
So it's it's learned by doing. It's experiential learning. So the more times you do it, the more comfortable you get. I'll be perfectly honest. I was not myself for the first 6 years that I was in Portland, Maine. I was imitating Bob Lobel, who is kind of a local legend here in the Boston area, because I found his style of folksy and matter of fact what I wanted to be. Right. So I mimicked that style until I felt comfortable being who I was. And it took me 5 or 6 years.
Yeah. And I say that a lot too, is I always make a lot of parallels to music. And, it's like you start a band and you learn a bunch of other band songs. So you become a cover band, and then you play those songs over and over, and then maybe you get to the point where maybe you start to rearrange them a bit and start to make them, even though they're a cover song, you start to make them a little bit more like to you. And then eventually you're like writing your own music. You're writing your own, you found your own voice, you found your own music, and you're doing that. So it's like, it's one of those things, man. It's just a natural progression of things. Like you want to start off sort of, you're influenced, you're imitating, but it's because you think that, and so you're doing it. But then, eventually you're like, you just develop your own voice.
Right. And, it's interesting. I use this line a lot when I teach young people how to write for broadcast. And writing for the spoken word is completely different than writing for the printed word, writing for the blog world or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. But I always say, make sure you write what you're going to say on camera. Because if you're going to put a foot in your mouth, you want to make sure it's your own foot you're putting in your mouth, not your producer's foot, because that would be weird, right? So at least you're responsible for what you say on camera. And talk shows, by the way, should not be scripted. Podcasts should not be scripted. Have a conversation with the person you're talking to. And Chris, you're doing a fine job at that.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, and that's just my nature. I just, I'm a talker. I like to talk. And listen, it's one thing to get framed up when you talk to somebody and say, hey, let's, we'll cover these quick things and all that, and do a little bit of the legwork ahead of time. But now to me, it's like now you're just flying, and you just, where the conversation goes, and you roll with it, man. You roll with it because it's conversation. You want to, as long as the people listening and watching can take something away and they can be part of it, they feel like they're part of it by listening in, or they have that good takeaway, then mission accomplished.
Absolutely.
That's how I see it. So this was great, man. See, we didn't even get into some of the other stuff. We've been gabbing away at all these other great things.
You know what? I know how to fill time. When I get right time, I can fill time.
Well, you're a master at filling time. That could actually be a class you could speak, how to fill time.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, we'll wrap it up because we've done a really good amount of talking here, and I hope everybody who was watching live, who will be watching this on the replay, and will be listening to this on the podcast, really enjoyed the conversation. Jimmy, where can people get a hold of you? I know we mentioned it before, but where can people reach out to you, especially, if they want to get a hold of you and talk about like becoming part of the Pro Cannabis Media universe?
That's easy. My email is Jimmy, JAMMY at Pro Cannabis Media. Okay. .com, and procannabismedia.com is our website. That's the name of our YouTube channel. It's the name of our Facebook page. We've got the Instagram thing. We've got the Twitter thing going. And look, I just create content. All right. But I know how important it is for people to track down your podcast is In the Weeds with Jimmy Young. It's on iTunes, Spotify, and all those, right? We just launched Cannabis Chat, which are the excerpts of the live stream that we've been doing. And that's now available on iTunes. That just happened, I think, 2 weeks ago. Nice. So Cannabis Chat. And then We Talk News, which is our weekly news video that we release on Fridays, also on our social media outlets. All of this is available on demand on Pro Cannabis Media. So like, subscribe, share, embrace, make fun of, comment, do whatever you want to do. All I'm doing is talking to people and trying to make them laugh and educate them about something, or this crazy plan.
Do all the things, man. Do all the things.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Well, I want to thank everybody so much once again for joining us today. Thank you, Jimmy, so much for hanging out with us today on the show and sharing all your great information, your backstory, and why you do what you do. And I urge everybody to follow Jimmy, to watch Pro Cannabis Media, especially if you're interested in learning more about cannabis and all the different aspects of it. I can assure you it's not just literally a bunch of guys, a bunch of people sitting around smoking weed.
I'm looking for a grow show. I want a grow show. Okay. So at some point, if you know any growers, and by the way, they are, let's just say, personalities that I've met so far. So I'd love to have a grow show. And the next time, because I'm going to put you out on the spot, I'm hoping that we get to do this again. You didn't even ask me about the highlight of my broadcast career. It was not the trophy.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Oh, my God.
Getting thrown in the Charles River by Bobby Orr.
Yeah, before we sign off. Yeah. Oh, my God. You're so right. Yeah. So real quick. Yeah. Well, should we leave them hanging, or should we
leave them hanging? Oh,
no, I'll leave you guys hanging. I know, and I put it in the description too, but
sorry.
But yeah, so we'll leave you hanging. Next time we'll talk about the Bobby Orr story.
You bet.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Have an awesome new year, and we'll see you next week for another episode of Rocket Live. See you back 4 p.m. EST. Rocket.